Okay, first time in front of a camera for 500 years. No big deal, it's not a nest of surrogates. You can do this. This is U.S., well, I guess former U.S. Air Force Captain Matthew Drax, also known as Maddrax, also known, per my dear companion Arula and everyone else around us, as Maddrax. The year's 2516, and I am currently in a bunker somewhere under what used to be London.
Maddrax? Who are you talking to?
The computer. Oh, you see this little round bit here? It's a lens, and it lets the computer record a picture of what's happening in front of it. And this little hole next to it is a microphone. That picks up sound.
But why are you talking to a machine? Is that not a sign of madness?
You're the one who calls me Mad Drax. The computer is recording all this, saving what I say so people can look back on it in the future. Like telling tribal stories by the fire.
I would rather hear the stories from an elder. Will you be long?
Hopefully not, but I promise His Highness to leave this for the archive.
Very well. I shall prepare for our journey to Miraka. Just make sure the machine does not talk back.
Got it. Right, where to begin? I guess at the beginning, which was really the end. The end of the world. It was February 8th, 2012. We thought we were living in the future, a golden age of technology and interconnection, and in a way, it was. But nobody expected that we were about to become a lost society. See, there was a comet approaching Earth, Christopher Floyd, and it looked likely to make impact, taking out all life on Earth with it. You know, like that movie, the one with the Aerosmith song. Though, actually, I guess you probably don't. Anyway, it was my squadron's job, along with a scientific advisor named Jacob Smythe, to investigate the comet's approach and, if necessary, blast it out of existence. We were meant to be heroic, group of hotshots saving the Earth. Only things didn't quite turn out as we expected. Seems weird to do this. I'm supposed to be explaining history, but it feels more like going through therapy. Funny that. Back on track, a comet named Christopher Floyd. There were 6 of us: Hank Williams, Irvin Chester, Jenny Jensen, Dave McKenzie, Smythe, and myself. Smythe was there to observe and do all the things astrophysicists do. The rest of us were armed to the teeth. We took off from Lancaster AFB in California, and as we approached the comet, it became clear we'd have to shoot it down. We threw everything we had at it, but barely managed to scratch the thing. A few tiny shards were chipped off to burn in re-entry, but otherwise it was too little, and way too late. We were pulled into the comet's tail and caught up in some kind of vortex. By the time I got my jet level again, I was somewhere over the Alps and all my electronic systems had been knocked out by the comet's radiation. Then that bastard Smythe pulled his ejector seat, and the downward force brought me too close to the mountains to get out as well, leaving me to crash solo. I don't know how long I was out for. It can't have been for too long, or I'd have died from exposure or concussion. All I know is that I woke up in a plane that didn't work, with no radio, phone reception, no GPS, one hell of a headache, and the sight of something straight out of a horror comic. Man-sized rats coming to sniff out the wreckage. Given the state I was in, I was ready to write it off as a nightmare, until they started getting a little too close for comfort. I was still strapped into my seat. Couldn't run away, couldn't work out how to reach for my pistol. But luck was on my side. I wasn't alone. I thought it must have been the crew from one of the other planes, but it was barbarians. Like straight out of a Conan novel. Wait, are you serious? Copyright issues after everything that's happened. Regardless, I didn't expect to see wandering nomads in fur and leather wielding swords. They fought off the rats, and then it looked like I was next. I tried to ask some questions, because, I mean, as much as the German guys at NATO exercises joke about anyone living over 5,000 feet, I expected them to speak some kind of English. Nothing. Not that it really mattered. I passed out again as soon as they pulled me from the plane. Twice in a day. Not my finest hour. When I came to, we were in some kind of encampment, and one of the tribeswomen was looking after me. You heard her at the start of all this, Arula. The tribe had heard my rambling and hoped that she could find a way for us to communicate. How? Well, not only is this lady a knockout beauty and one hell of a fighter, but she's telepathic. And once we got to know each other, we became pretty good friends. More than friends. Maybe a lot more than friends. After I recovered, miraculously, all things considered, I was half adopted by Arula's tribe. We began to move south towards warmer climes, following rumors of fertile lands and the possibility of settling. Along the way, we kept coming across ruins, pieces of houses, husks of trains, shards of old glass and plastic. But no cities. No real signs of life. Instead, the signs pointed to something else. This was still Earth, but it was Earth after civilization. Society as I knew it had fallen. Things really sank in when we reached our first proper city, Bologna. Belluna. Between when I was sent forward by the comment and now, there's been another great linguistic shift. Most of this had been simplification, as you can imagine the current state of education. But certain sounds are also falling out of use. Case in point, Arula still can't pronounce my name right. I told her it's Maddrax, but the hard T and the shift to a D just isn't a thing. And so I've gone from being Matthew Drax to Maddrax to Maddrax. Well, we're all mad these days. And so is English. Anyway, Buluna, or rather, the road to Buluna. A tribe of alpine nomads is one thing. Finding out I didn't hallucinate the Taraxes, those man-sized rats, was another. And if you thought those were bad, you haven't seen the Siracips. Imagine spiders 5 feet long and with a leg span of over 10 feet. And blind, so you can't even distract them properly. As an ex-fighter pilot, I don't get easily rattled, but the fact that they're also smart enough to wage war with a tribe of wolfmen, the Wolven, will chill anyone's blood. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it. As the pieces came together, I began to work out the basics of what had happened. Somehow, I was flung into the distant future as a result of my impact with the comet. During that time, some kind of massive evolutionary disaster occurred, causing wildlife to go haywire and humans to devolve into roughly the Iron Age. Whether that's the result of radiation poisoning or climate disaster, I'm not sure. But I know it's not good. In any case, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to see more of this brave new world for myself. Maybe there'd be a way to get home, or at least a city left somewhere with running water. Arula and I were close enough at this point that she decided to come with me. And I was all too grateful for the company. It sounds callous to say, but I'd been so caught up in just trying to survive that I hadn't thought about the rest of my crew. But the past comes back to haunt us all, even when under attack by post-apocalyptic mutations. And when we reach the ruins of Milan, there's a second L in there, really. It was like stepping back in time to a Victorian vampire novel. The town had been taken over by the Nosfera, who are exactly as their name implies. And who was their leader? The arch-bastard himself, Dr. Jacob Smythe. Only now he wasn't just a bastard, but an insane bastard. I wish I could say it was a touching reunion, but the only touching was my fist making contact with his face. It ended with him falling into a pit, inhabited by a giant monster. We continued heading north, and it's a testament to human adaptability that constant attacks from every kind of plant and animal life imaginable became so routine as to be forgettable and, well, mundane. But then we reached Leipzig, and there it all hit the fan. The city was in ruins as usual, but this time, we found hints of something more. The local tribes worshipped at the entrance to something underground, something which turned out to be the future. Like what you'd expect of the future: electricity, computers, laser weapons, technology. We were greeted with appropriate suspicion, but the respite from reality didn't last. The city fell under siege from the northern peoples, self-styled slayers of gods, who were all too happy to obliterate this pocket of civilization from the map. But it didn't make sense. People these days are armed with spears and flint knives, but suddenly here's a group of pseudo-Vikings sailing up the river on steamships armed with cannons, who know how to make engines and blend gunpowder. We never found out where they came from, but we managed to defend the bunker settlement despite our casualties. At the end of the battle, as we saw to the dying, we were gifted with 2 pieces of information. First, that I am recording this in the year 2516, 504 years after the comet Christopher Floyd struck planet Earth. Second, the inhabitants of the bunker were English settlers who brought their technology with them. Arula and I decided to see if we could make contact with the main group. Heading north, we swung by Berlin, the ruins of Berlin. Now ruled over by a tribe of Amazon warriors, the city became home to a much more pleasant surprise. Their queen is none other than my ex-squadron member, Jenny Jensen. While she seemed to have made it through the time slip without too many problems, she didn't become Wolvenschau. She was suffering from severe amnesia. As the only man to come near the tribe the others ensured, Jenny and I had some interesting evenings together, and I'm glad to say that was able to help Jenny remember her past. Together we helped the Amazons find peace with the local tribe of men after years of skirmishes between them. While I asked Jenny to join us, she decided to stay behind and help with the rebuilding. I have to watch out now around Arula, though. She's, definitely jealous of what Jenny and I got up to. From Berlin, we headed west to Cullen, once the home of perfumes and a fancy church, now home of Rilfan, a fast friend with a modern bunker-dwelling father and barbarian mother. For better or worse, he takes after the latter. When we arrived, he was fighting against a group calling themselves the Holy Trinity. I'd say you can't make it up, but religion's changed a lot in the last 500 years as well, and that doesn't mean what it used to. Then again, what does?
Maddrax, you've gone quiet. Does this mean you're finished?
Not quite, just a few more minutes. Everything in order?
I believe so. I still do not understand why you speak at a machine which will not respond.
There was a scientist once who created a computer program. A machine, basically. And you could write messages to the machine and it would respond back to you. He called it Eliza, and...
Machines do not need names.
Can I finish?
Go on.
The scientists told people that the machine would help them feel better, that they could hold a conversation, and it would work with them to figure out their problems.
The machine would give advice, because it thinks faster than people.
Right. It was supposed to be groundbreaking, but it was fake. All it did was take part of what the user told it and rephrase that as a question. The scientist wrote it as a joke. He wanted to show how limited the discussion between man and machine could be. But it was a little too good at what it did. Even people who knew how it worked found themselves talking to it as if it were a real person.
But what does this have to do with you? This machine won't even lie to you. It merely sits there and pretends to listen.
Sometimes that's enough.
You are a strange man, Maddrax. Do not take too long. We need to get as far as we can before nightfall.
Eliza, off to the races. Where were we? Oh yeah, Rolfan. The Holy Trinity ruling over the settlement with iron fists and sharp, pointy objects, stamping out descent through bloodshed. As Rolfan explained to us, 3 members had been perfectly normal members of their tribe, until they came across a glowing green crystal and brought it back to their encampment. The more time they spent with the crystal, the crazier and more bloodthirsty they seemed to become. When we broke into their headquarters, we saw that the crystal resembled the one we'd seen while traveling, usually near large hordes of mutations. Maybe they're fragments of the comet and still radioactive. We weren't sure, but we also couldn't destroy it. In any case, Rolfan gave us some helpful tips and sent us on our way as he retook Cullen to rule as a benevolent king. It's funny how the more things change, the more they stay the same. Also, how you can cross half a continent on foot and then realize you haven't considered what you'll do when you hit a large body of water. As we approached what used to be Belgium, that finally came to mind, as did having to cross a swath of terrain held by mutant insects. Because even after the apocalypse, Germany is still a wasp-filled hell at the end of the summer. Somehow we made our way up the old Channel Tunnel, and to our amazement, it hadn't completely collapsed in on itself. Thank goodness for concrete and non-biodegradable materials. As a pilot, the thought of spending extended periods of time underground seemed ludicrous. But now it was like ascending to heaven itself. Since I'm here, you can obviously see that we reached London. With Rolfan's invitation and the information we received in Leipzig, whatever, we were able to secure entry to the bunker and meet the Technos, a group of Brits who'd managed to flee and hold on to their technology and civilization after the comet's impact. It's so incredible down here. There's power, electric motors, flush toilets. It's like an oasis and just so English. We even met the king, Roger the First. That said, all good things have a catch. Staying underground has deprived the inhabitants of their immune systems. At first, it was simple lack of exposure, but ultimately, it became its own genetic devolution. And now, the Technos can only go up to the surface to restock if they're in full body protection. It's possible that someone, somewhere in a different bunker, has figured out some kind of immunization serum. Not just a vaccine, but an actual way to kickstart full-on antibody production. Due to lingering radiation from the comet, no one's been able to restore communication by radio. And so this brings us to the here and now. The Technos have provided us with equipment and assistance, and we have their official charter to serve as ambassadors to other bunkers. There are long-held rumors that their cousins, the English, never change, guys, in Miraka, America, might have actually figured it out. And so, Arula and I will make for the English coast and sail the mighty Alanta. Prepare yourselves, my fellow Moroccans, Matthew Drax is coming home.